Okay, just started into the moon that we call Gatto, which in the past was known as kind of the hardship and starvation moon. We're moving into the latter part of winter now, and at this time in the past, a lot of people be running out of their food supplies, and there's not a lot out here in reality that you can get, that you can harvest or hunt this time of year. So I'm out here. This is where I'm at right now. This is called what I call the North Wood by Spopikami, the Turtle Waters, along the edge of the Old Man River. I'm headed down to the river. Want to go see what's going on down there and see what I can learn being out here today for a few hours. This morning I was very inspired. I went out to the park near my house to train, as I do every morning, feed my magpie friends. And when I put down the kibble that I give the magpies this morning, right away when the magpies came, a merlin also showed up, swooped in, and was good. Tried to nab a magpie, but the magpies were aware of it, and they scattered and hit the brush. It all happened very fast, and the merlin actually came swooping right by my head, so close I could have reached up and touched him. And I was completely oblivious. And this is, I think, one of the problems that we have today in a lot of respects. Modern people, we're oblivious to a lot of things. You know, if I had been a magpie this morning, I'd have been dead meat. And you know, the other magpies, just lucky for them, but it's not just lucky, it's training and skill that they saw that merlin coming and were able to get out of the way before he swooped in and got one of them. So I think this is a very important martial arts lesson, and it's something that is often neglected in training, which is to develop a real strong consciousness and awareness of your environment, that's in the moment, that you're constantly watching and aware of what's going on. It kind of reminds me of, you know, the ideal that I have in my mind kind of reminds me of a really good detective. You know, really good, like Sherlock Holmes type of detective is going to be very aware of everything in the environment and notice all the minutia. And you know, a lot of times we get ourselves into dangerous situations simply because we're not paying attention. And this could include physical violence types of situations, encounters with other people that are going to want to hurt you or threaten you in some way. A lot of times we can avoid that if we're just really sensitive and aware to what's going on around us. So you know, that's not a new lesson for me, but it's good to have reminders. And so this morning was a really clear reminder, and so this afternoon inspired me to come out here to the river, so this afternoon I can try to learn more from the animals. I'm rucking a lot of weight this afternoon. My Bulgarian bag, which I made the other week down by the river, has lost a lot of steam. I filled it up on an icy day, like not unlike today, and probably a lot of the weight was freeze weight, or a lot of the space was frozen space between the sands and water and all of that. So it's lost a lot of steam. So I'm going to one of the things I'm going to do today is try to find another sandbar and fill it up a bit more, get it nice and full. And then it'll weigh even more than it does right now. I think right now it weighs about 30 pounds, something in that range. My camera pack that I'm rucking today weighs about 60 pounds with the cameras and lenses. So I'm rucking about 90 pounds to start, and it's going to get heavier once I load some more sand into this Bulgarian bag. So I'm starting off with about half of my body weight as strength exercise as I'm hiking today, and of course The conditions are such that moving through snow, some of which is fairly deep, and so it's going to be good exercise just to take a nice hike around and see what I can see. So I brought the camera with me so you guys can join. Alright, so here's something that I do. Right now I want to get over there, which is basically, it's across the river from me, and I know there's a sandbar island out here. I've seen some geese on the other side that I want to check out, some golden-eyed ducks, but more than that, I also want to get the sand for the Bulgarian bag out there. So I need to cross the ice, but it has been kind of warm lately. I mean, today it's colder. Today it's like -14 or something, but it has been hovering around and above zero for a while. So I gotta figure out where's the safe place to cross the ice, and my best bet is to follow the tracks of a deer that's crossed the ice, because a deer is a fairly heavy animal, and if it can cross the ice, and it has crossed within the last 24 hours when the snow fell, then I can be fairly confident that I can cross the ice here following the deer's trail. So I'm going to do that. Hopefully I won't go in. Yeah, my walk around has become kind of a sit still, because this is where the geese are and where the open water is. There's a few golden eyes out here, which is something I wanted to show, but they're staying a bit downstream because they're aware of my presence. But since this is where the geese are, where the golden eyes are, where the open water is, this is where, if we're going to see anything significant, chances are we're going to see it here. And so sometimes, the best approach to learning is just to sit still um, and watch what unfolds. And so that's what I'm gonna do. I wish I had brought sunglasses with me today, because the glare off the snow is just absolutely burning my eyes. There have been other flocks of geese coming in and landing, and where they've coming from is they've been up feeding on the stubble fields, and they're coming down to once they're full, they might come back down here and sit by the water all winter long. As long as the rivers are frozen, the geese will roost in large collectives along these open water crags, and they line up just along the water's edge, sitting on the ice. And they do that because if you come out here at night and look at it, you can have a couple thousand geese sitting here and you wouldn't even know it. It just looks like that's where the ice ends and the water begins, but in fact they're lined all the way up like this. I noticed that when the geese come in, when new flocks arrive, they always call. So there's a lot of noise and stuff. They call, and the ones on the ground respond. And I don't exactly know why that is, although one of the things that I wonder is whether it's a response to human hunting practices, because using decoys to bring in waterfowl is not a new hunting strategy. It's been going on a long time. And so one thing that I thought was, well, it would make sense if the geese develop a strategy to beat this, where before they're going to come in for a landing, they give a call, and if the ones on the down below where they're going to land don't answer, then they might not be real and they might be a trap, so they just don't come down. This is a potential part of it, but I'm absolutely sure it's not all of it, because I've also seen geese enter with a lot of flair. Sometimes I've come out and I've watched in the evening, I've watched all of the geese from all the area around come down to coalesce at the open crag of water, and you see thousands of geese arriving. They arrive in smaller groups, like clans. They come in like clans, and some of them will make very fancy entrances, even flipping upside down, doing these little inversions where they flip upside down and drop down suddenly. So it's, part of it, I think, and I'm sure part of the noise as well, is a show. It's a show that of their arrival of that particular clan. But I wouldn't be totally surprised if part of it wasn't also a defensive strategy. So so this is the best spot, really, because the geese are here. This is the best spot to stick around and just see what happens. There's some behaviors of the golden eyes that I wanted to show you, and we could get eagles or coyotes or other animals coming in to check out the geese and golden eyes. Certainly it could wander around and probably come across something to look at, but when you already have something, a learning opportunity right in front of you, why walk away to go to try to find something else just because it seems like there's nothing happening right here, right at this moment? I'm pretty sure if you're a goose, there's a lot happening here right at this moment, and I'm just not aware of it, even though I know these geese really well. A lot of these geese that are here right now, they're overwintering here because they can, because we still got the open water crags. If we didn't have the open water crags, they would have to leave for the winter. But because we do, they can manage, they can stick around, and a lot of them are going to nest right on this island, right on the sandbar island that I'm on right now. And in fact, in these, you can't see it on the camera, but I'm kind of sitting in some willow brush to keep myself a little bit concealed, so I'm just not sticking out in front of the geese. This is the most exposed I've been this whole. I've been here probably a half hour now. But yeah, in these willow brush clusters, where I'm sitting watching the geese from today, is exactly where the nests are going to be. So some of these geese, they actually already know me from years of me interacting with them here on the island, on the nest island, because I do collect some goose eggs. I never strip anybody of all their eggs, but I do collect goose eggs as part of my indigenous diet here. So I'm going to set back up and hide back in the brush again and see what happens.
Though I only realize it now after the fact, looking at this video, I can see that this couple here is actually a pair of Mesa X or common mergansers rather than golden eyes. They interestingly have the same kind of relationship going on with the geese as the golden eyes do, and the kind of relationship that I describe when I'm out in the field.
Alright, so I think I'm going to ruck up and move a little bit. I want to go check out the forest main and the owlwood. My choice to move is more on the basis right now that I've been out sitting still for about an hour in negative 14 below weather, and I'm starting to get cold. So I need to move around just to stay warm and comfortable. The behavior that I hope to get on film down here, I wasn't able to get, which is to look at the golden eyes. How a lot of times when I see them down here with the geese, what I'll see is that they'll drift downstream. They just let the water kind of take them downstream, and as they're drifting, they're diving for fish. And when they get so far downstream, then they fly back upstream to the top of the goose line, and then drift back past the geese. And you know, the reason that I want to get that on film is because I think they have an interesting relationship with the geese. I think it's an important relationship, and I always try to pay attention to relationships between species. Us humans, we also have a lot of species that are closely related to us. What we call synanthropic species, meaning they live with people. And these are oftentimes the species that we consider to be pests, although they're not pests at all. You know, crows, for instance. A lot of people hate crows, but they're a synanthropic species. Between the golden eyes and the geese, what I think is happening is that the golden eyes, because they have to dive for their food, they're using the geese as watch guards, as watchdog kind of things. So while they're diving, the geese, just of their own nature, are paying close attention for any predators in the area. And if something does come in that's a threat to them, it's most likely also going to be a threat to the goldeneye, and the goldeneye are going to know from the behavior of the geese that something's wrong. And so when they come up for air between their dives, they're going to see if the geese are behaving in certain ways that something's wrong. And so they'll have that chance to get out of there, get to safety. So it's part of their self-defense system, the golden eyes. But the relationship is an interesting relationship, I think, because it's not parasitic. The geese, of their own nature, are already looking out for the predators, and there's a lot of these kind of relationships out here in nature, and there's a lot of these kind of relationships with us, with human beings too, between other animals that are living, are benefiting from us, and it's not in a parasitic way. And I think, to me, you know, I want to nurture those kind of relationships, because the more I think fitness in the ecological and evolutionary sense is the more you are interconnected with everything, the more you are adapted to the place where you live, the more fit you are, the more you're going to survive. So, as a species. So if there's not a lot of animals and plants and life forms dependent on us, then I think we're in trouble. So yeah, it's one of the things I want to look at, and it has two different kind of defense type of applications. One is, you know, how do like animals like the goldeneye benefit from their allies, the geese, in this kind of way, in this protective way. Also, you know, how do the geese and the goldeneyes together get mutual benefit, because of that mutuality, because of that relationship, their position in this ecosystem is stronger. That's my opinion. So anyway, I'm cold, and I'm gonna get rucked up and go see what else is around. Okay, let me introduce you to a fairly old acquaintance of mine. This is a porcupine, a resident porcupine of Spopikimi, who my wife and I call Peekaboo. And Peekaboo has a missus who lives here as well. Her name is the Blonde, and although you can see some blonde on the tips of the hairs of Peekaboo here, his wife is really, really blonde, and we've been encountering this porcupine for about the last 5 or 6 years here, and seen several families and their offsprings from Peekaboo and the Blonde. And right now, you know, there's no real good angle without climbing this giant tree to get a good shot of Peekaboo. He's just sleeping up there right now, and it's a good place for a porcupine to be pretty safe, to go up and sleep in the top of a cottonwood tree like this, because really when he's like this, there's really only 2 predators that can get at him. One is the great horned owl, who is tough enough to go up against a porcupine, and the other one is a human being who might go after him. And I myself have eaten porcupine, 1 or 2 porcupine every winter for the last several years, but I would never think about eating Peekaboo or the Blonde because they're my favorites. But yeah, in any case, pretty safe. The porcupine, you know, it has its defense, has its quills, and that's what it uses when it's on the ground, or, you know, when it's on the move, or pretty much any time it can use its quills. But when they get up in a tree like this, they're more or less safe to sleep, because at this point, like I said, there's only really 2 predators that are going to be able to get at them. So that's the porcupine, and sorry I couldn't get a better angle on him, but there he is. Moving on. This is the area that I call the Owlwood, and the reason I call it the Owlwood is because down here in this particular little batch of trees, this little forest, for several years, as I was coming to know this place, there was a great horned owl nest down here. And just the last couple of years, there hasn't been a nest, but that doesn't mean that there's no owls. And every winter I'm still seeing great horned owls down here, and they're very camouflage. You really have to know how, you really have to kind of have an eye for them. If you have an eye for them, you can pick them out. They sit often like this, very close to a tree trunk, and the coloration is very close to the same as the poplar and cottonwood trees that are down here. And so here you see great horned owl, Kakanostoki, in the Owlwood. And what you're looking at here is really the apex avian predator in my region. In pretty much in North America. We have here, we have the bald eagle, we have the golden eagle in my area. We have several different owl species and hawk species, and but all of them pale in terms of their strength and ferocity to Kakanostoki, the owl you're looking at here, the great horned owl. In fact, the great horned owl has been known to even kick eagles out of their nests and steal their nests to use them for themselves. So this is probably what we're looking at here is probably one of the offspring of the couple who used to nest here. It's fairly odd for a couple to decide they're going to nest somewhere else if they've been being successful every year in the place that they were nesting. And so I kind of think something happened to the parents, but I don't know. I kind of think that, what we're looking at here is an offspring, and he's alone. He's alone. It could be a he or she, but this owl is kind of not the largest owl I've seen, and so chances are it's a male because the females are usually quite larger. And so I got a lot of respect for these owls as the apex predators. And if you have predators, if you have top predators in your ecosystem, then you probably got a pretty healthy ecosystem going on, because otherwise the predators would not be able to survive. And sure enough, here in the Owlwood, it's living up to its name, and we encounter Kakanostoki, who, as I mentioned earlier, is also pretty much the only other one that's a threat to peekaboo the porcupine. So I'm glad I came down here today and checked out the Owlwood, even to see what else was going on here. I've got to able to walk around a little bit as I wanted to. Filled up my Bulgarian bag, and so it's a little heavier now. It's probably about a good 50 pounds instead of 30 pounds. And I just set it down because I'm watching the owl, but I've been hiking around with it, and makes it it's pretty good exercise. So I didn't get to, I didn't really learn a ton today, but I was glad that I came down, got to see peekaboo, got to see Kakanostoki, got to look at the geese a little bit and the golden eyes and reflect on that relationship, and the whole, one thing that did come to mind to me as a kind of a theme for the day, perhaps philosophically, other than what I learned from the magpies this morning, which is, reminded of, was be very, very aware. Be very aware, because if you were, if I was a little critter coming through here, and I wasn't very aware, this Kakanostoki right here would tag me, I'd be out. Just not a problem. Even if I was not that small, I could be like a raccoon or something, and it'd be all over for me. So being very, very aware of your environment. But the other thing that kind of when I was reflecting on the golden eyes and the geese and their relationship, the thing that kind of struck me is, at the establishment of the United States, say, of this colonial reality that we live in now, that we're used to here in North America at this point, the establishment of it, one of the main kind of one of the main slogans behind the movement for Europeans to come over here and do what they've done has been independence and this value of being independent and this kind of a thing. And when I look at the geese and goldeneye, you know, I have to really call that value into question, because independence may be something beneficial in certain circumstances for the short term, but if you want to be long-term established, if you want to really fit and adapt in an environment, then independence is absolutely the opposite of what you should be striving for. What you should be looking for is highly dependent on all the other life forms, and as many life forms as you can benefit and make kind of more or less dependent on you, the better. Because the more you're fit in like that into the eco-social matrix, the longer you're going to last in evolutionary terms. So that was something that was kind of a new thought for me, was this idea of, I mean, it's not absolutely a new thought, but it's the first time that I've looked at some of these relationships like that between the geese and the goldeneye, and that's really come to mind that even though it doesn't seem to be serving any purpose to the geese to have the goldeneyes there, I mean, certainly it's serving a purpose to the goldeneyes because the goldeneyes are benefiting from the geese. The geese are acting like guard dogs for them, but it doesn't benefit the geese by the surface look of it, but in reality it does benefit them. Because the goldeneye are dependent on them, that strengthens the geese's role in this eco-social world. And so in the matrix of the eco-social, you know, the system here. So even if it doesn't appear like it serves a purpose, that dependence, or having somebody depend on you, is very, very important for the long-term survival. So that was something that really struck me and came to mind. And very grateful to you, Dr. Stokey, for being calm and everything while I'm down here speaking to my camera, and I'm going to hike home now.